Along with triglycerides that we just discussed, we also find phospholipids in the foods we eat. Here we're looking at lecithin, which is an example of a phospholipid. Phospholipids are abundant in egg yolks, peanuts, and soybeans, and can also be found in processed foods that contain emulsifiers, which are additives that help food stay blended. An example would be salad dressing, where you want to mix the oil with the vinegar. Look at the ingredient list and you won't be surprised if you find lecithin. As you can see here, phospholipids consist of a glycerol backbone. So this would be the glycerol backbone right here. And then they have two fatty acids attached to that glycerol backbone. Unlike a triglyceride, instead of a third fatty acid, they have a phosphate attached at the third carbon. So that's what's being shown here. The phospholipids are unique because they have both a hydrophobic water-avoiding part, that's the lipid tail portion, which you see here, and they also have a water-attracting end, which is the phosphate head, which would be considered hydrophilic. So this means that phospholipids have both a water-loving portion and a fat-loving portion, and this enables them to do special things in foods like act as an emulsifier and also in the body. Phospholipids help with digestion of fats. They combine with bile salts and electrolytes to make bile, which we learned in chapter 3 and learning this chapter as well. Bile salts are important in fat digestion. The body manufactures phospholipids, so they are not essential to include in the diet. Here's a look at just a simplified version of what a phospholipid would look like. So here's the phosphate-containing water-loving head portion, and then our two fatty acid chains which do not like water. So this would be the hydrophobic portion of the phospholipid. Your lecture outline asks, what's the difference between the structure of a triglyceride and the structure of a phospholipid? Well, to see what they have in common, here's a simplified look at a triglyceride. They're going to have that 3-carbon glycerol backbone in common. They're also going to have fatty acids in common, but unlike the triglyceride, which has 3 fatty acids attached to that glycerol backbone, in the third place, in the place of the 3rd carbon, you'll have a phosphate group instead, which gives it its unique properties. So unlike a phospholipid, a triglyceride does not like water whatsoever. It is a fat-loving compound because it is a fat. Triglycerides are fats. Cholesterol is another type of lipid. It is found both in plants and animal foods and is also produced in the body like phospholipids. You can see that the structure here of cholesterol is quite different from the other two lipids. There's a multiple ring structure. Now, both plants and animals contain sterols, but plant sterols are not very well absorbed, and they actually tend to block the absorption of dietary cholesterol, which is a type of sterol found only in animal foods. This this dietary cholesterol is only found in the fatty part of animal products. Examples would be butter, egg yolks, whole milk, meats and poultry. Lean meats and lower reduced fat milk, yogurt, and cheeses are going to have little to no cholesterol. So that you can see right here. Food sources of cholesterol, anything that comes from animal fat, really, it should say. You don't need to consume cholesterol because the body synthesizes all that it needs. This continuous production is vital because cholesterol, even though it gets a bad reputation, is absolutely essential to human health, which we'll discuss a little bit later in the lecture outline. These cholesterol is one type of a sterol. There are other sterols as well. For example, vitamin D is a type of sterol. Cholesterol is actually used to synthesize vitamin D, and we can synthesize all the cholesterol we need. The liver is one organ that does that. Saturated fatty acids can be used to synthesize cholesterol, but also carbohydrates and protein can as well. So saturated fatty acids can get a bad reputation for increasing blood cholesterol levels because they're used in the synthesis, but so are carbohydrates. So a high sugar, high refined diet can also lead to increased cholesterol synthesis as well. Just important concept to take away is that plants do not have cholesterol. This can be really confusing for students. You'll see some questions on it in the exam. I think students tend to think if something is high in fat, it also must be high in cholesterol, but this is absolutely not true. An example of this would be an avocado. Avocados are known for their rich fat content. Since an avocado is a plant, it would not have cholesterol.